I'm telling you right now, what happened at COTA should have every NASCAR fan fired up, because that finish felt like one of those moments where the entire garage, the entire fanbase, and honestly the entire season just shifted in real time. I was sitting there watching Tyler Reddick hold off Shane Van Gisbergen of all people on a road course, and my first reaction was pure shock. Not surprise, shock. Because when SVG is behind you late on a road course, that usually means the race is over and you're about to get past. But Reddick didn't crack. He didn't blink. He didn't fade. And the second that happened, the internet did what the internet always does in this sport. People started screaming. People started throwing around the word cheating. People started acting like NASCAR had another controversy on its hands. And that's exactly why this is such a massive story. Because the finish was real, the emotion was real, the history was real, and the reaction from the fanbase exploded almost as fast as the checkered flag dropped. And if you're a real NASCAR fan who lives for this kind of intensity, this kind of drama, and this kind of honest reaction after the race, go ahead and hit like and subscribe right now, because this channel is for people who actually care about what these moments mean. We're building a community here that doesn't just watch the results scroll by. We break it down, we argue about it, we feel it, and after a finish like that at COTA, trust me, you are going to want to be part of every single conversation coming next. So let's set the whole thing up the right way, because the stakes were enormous before the green flag even dropped. This was March 1, 2026, the Duramax Texas Grand Prix powered by Reladine at Circuit of the Americas, NASCAR's first road course race of the Cup season, and it already carried playoff-level energy. Tyler Reddick rolled in as the hottest driver in the sport, driving the number 45 Toyota for 23XI Racing, co-owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. He had already won the Daytona 500, already followed that up at Atlanta, and now he had a chance to do something nobody in NASCAR history had ever done: win the first 3 races of a season. That alone is headline material. But then you add Shane Van Gisbergen to the equation, and the tension goes through the roof. SVG came in driving the number 97 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, and he was hunting a 6th straight road course win after dominating that style of racing in 2025. Let that sink in. A guy chasing 6 straight road course wins was lining up against a guy chasing the best start to a season the Cup Series has ever seen. That matters. That's not regular season fluff. That's legacy territory. And the reason fans lost their minds afterward is because when you know who these two drivers are, the result almost feels impossible at first glance. Reddick is elite on road courses, we know that. He already had a COTA win from 2023. He won the pole for this race. He was fast all weekend. But SVG has built this aura where if the race turns technical, if the braking zones get violent, if the corners demand precision, the assumption is that eventually he's going to figure it out and come get you. That's the fear he puts in the field. That's the pressure he creates just by showing up. So when Reddick didn't just survive that pressure, but actually managed it, controlled it, and then pulled away late, it instantly felt bigger than one trophy. It felt like a statement to the entire garage that maybe the road course balance of power is not as settled as everybody thought it was. Now the race itself did not start with some cartoon controversy. It started like a serious road course chess match. Early on, there were multiple contenders in this thing. Chase Briscoe showed speed, Ryan Blaney was in the mix, Ross Chastain was aggressive, and the strategy game started almost immediately because that's what COTA does. You are never just racing the guy next to you there. You are racing the fuel window, tire life, track position, restarts, and the decision of whether to sacrifice stage points for the finish. Stage 1 ended up going to Ross Chastain, but that only tells part of the story because several drivers made those classic road course strategy calls and short-pitted before the end of the stage. That's always where the tension starts building at this place. Some teams want points. Some teams want a position. Some teams are thinking about the final 30 laps before the first stage even ends. And when you have Reddick, SVG, Blaney, Bell, Gibbs, and Chastain all trying to beat each other with different versions of the same playbook, every lap starts to feel loaded. Stage 2 is where the race really began to show its personality. SVG had to fight from deeper in the order at one point, and that alone added another layer to the drama because every time he had to pass cars just to get back to the front, it kept the pressure on his race. Reddick, meanwhile, started taking more control. His car was planted. The forward drive was there. He looked comfortable putting power down off the corners, and that's huge at COTA because if you can launch cleanly uphill and out of the slower sections, you're making the guy behind you burn up his tires and patience just to stay close. Ty Gibbs ended up winning Stage 2 through the pit sequence game, which tells you how chaotic the strategy had become. Christopher Bell was hanging around. Michael McDowell was lurking. Connor Zilisch had his own wild day with spins and recovery drives. Even Ryan Blaney kept finding ways to stay attached to the fight. So this wasn't some two-man exhibition from start to finish. This was a real event with multiple contenders and constantly shifting pressure points, which makes what Reddick did at the end even more impressive. Then came the section of the race where you could feel the entire story tightening. Reddick led a race-high 58 of the 95 laps, but this was not one of those easy 58-lap domination runs where the box score tells the whole truth. He had to earn this thing through sequences. In the final stage, Blaney put legitimate pressure on him. There was a moment where Blaney got alongside in turn 6A and made it look like maybe the number 45 was finally vulnerable. But every single time somebody showed Reddick a nose, he answered. He kept resetting the terms of the fight. That's a champion's trait. Then the green flag pit cycle came, and this is where road course races become nerve tests. Reddick came from the lead to pit road with 26 laps to go. Blaney followed. SVG came a lap later. Everybody is calculating fuel, tire life, and how hard they can push before the race flips on them. One small mistake there, and history disappears. One bad stop, one wheel hop, one missed braking zone, and suddenly the whole narrative changes. And then we got the moment that changed the entire finish. Ross Chastain's car lost a wheel and brought out the key caution of the afternoon, the only caution for an on-track incident, and suddenly the whole race was reset for a final showdown. This is where it gets interesting. Because now all the strategy, all the pace, all the planning, all the careful management of gaps and tires got compressed into a restart with massive consequences. Reddick kept the lead after the lap 79 restart. Blaney was there. SVG restarted third and immediately attacked, charging past Blaney downhill through the Essies to grab second. And once he got there, every NASCAR fan watching had the same thought. Here we go. This is the real test now. This is Reddick versus the road course assassin with clean air gone, and the pressure turned all the way up. For the next several laps, it looked exactly like the kind of sequence that creates legends and conspiracy theories at the same time. SVG harried him. He stalked him. He closed in enough to make you think one mistake would decide the whole race. Reddick later admitted he was trying to minimize mistakes because he knows how dangerous Van Gisbergen is in that situation. SVG said afterward that every time he got close, Reddick would step it up, and that's the key detail. Reddick was not panicking. He was managing the race. He was matching the threat level corner by corner. He was making sure SVG never got the clean opening he needed. Now listen to how important that is. On road courses, a lot of battles look tighter from the helicopter shot than they actually are from the cockpit. A car can be there visually without ever quite being in a real passing position. And according to SVG himself, that's basically what happened. He had maybe one shot at turn 6, but Reddick covered it. After that, the number 45 slowly started stretching the gap, using horsepower and forward drive up the hill toward turn 1 to break the draft of hope that had been building behind him. And when the checkered flag finally dropped, the margin was 3.944 seconds. Think about how deceptive that number is. If you only read the final margin, you might think Reddick crushed the field late. But if you watched those laps, you know it felt much tighter than that for a while. That's why the reaction exploded. Fans saw Reddick do something almost nobody expected anybody to do to SVG on that kind of track, and the emotional side of the fanbase went straight to suspicion. Social media lit up with the usual language. No way. Something's off. That car was too good. NASCAR better look at it. And here's the thing, that wave of suspicion is the real reason people started saying NASCAR was in trouble. Not because there was official proof of cheating. Not because Shane Van Gisbergen came out and blasted Tyler Reddick. He didn't. In fact, the opposite happened. SVG said Reddick's driving was immaculate. He said Tyler was amazing. He said they lacked a little turn and a little drive. He said they didn't quite have enough. He even said it was weird to be disappointed with second because the series is at such a high level. And post-race inspection found no issues with Reddick's car. That part matters. A lot. So if you're asking, did Shane Van Gisbergen officially accuse Tyler Reddick of cheating, the answer is no. And I think that distinction is huge because the real story is actually more interesting than the cheap version. The real story is that NASCAR has developed such a trust problem with portions of its fanbase that the second something unusual happens, a lot of people don't even wait for facts anymore. They jump straight to scandal. They jump straight to corruption. They jump straight to the sport is rigged. That's the bigger issue here. Reddick beats the most feared road racer in the series, makes Cup history, gives 23XI Racing its third straight win to open the year, and instead of everybody just appreciating the drive, the conversation instantly fractures into celebration on one side and suspicion on the other. That's the real impact here. NASCAR's problem is not just officiating. It's credibility. It's perception. It's the feeling among some fans that every shocking result must have a hidden explanation. And to be fair, you can understand why emotions run hot. Reddick didn't just win. He won from the pole. He led 58 laps. He held off Blaney. He held off SVG. He beat the man most people believed was unbeatable on road courses. Michael Jordan was on pit road high-fiving as his team made history. 23XI Racing, the same organization that already made headlines off the track with its legal battle against NASCAR, suddenly looked unstoppable on the track too. And now Reddick wasn't just winning races. He was rewriting the opening chapter of the season. First driver in NASCAR history to win the first 3 races of the year. First team to sweep the first 3 races of a season since Petty Enterprises all the way back in 1963. That's enormous. Those are the kind of stats that don't just create excitement, they create resistance. When one driver gets that hot that fast, fans start looking for the catch. But let's talk about what this means competitively, because this is where the season gets really interesting. After COTA, Reddick held a 70-point lead over his own 23XI teammate Bubba Wallace with Chase Elliott 72 points back. That is a ridiculous amount of breathing room this early in the year. One race can't win you a championship, but 3 straight wins can absolutely change how everybody else has to race you. It changes strategy. It changes aggression. It changes the way other teams measure themselves. 23XI suddenly isn't the team trying to prove it belongs in the elite tier. It is the elite tier, at least right now. Billy Scott's calls mattered, the car mattered, the execution mattered, and Reddick's composure mattered most of all because when the pressure peaked, he didn't overdrive the corners trying to escape SVG. He stayed disciplined. That's how winning streaks keep going, not by emotion, by control. On the Trackhouse side, there's no shame in second, but there is pressure now. SVG came in with the road course crown on his head, and even though he praised Reddick afterward, that result still stings because expectations shape disappointment. He basically admitted that himself. It's weird to be disappointed with second, but that's where he is now. That's the standard he created. When he finishes runner-up on a road course, it feels like a missed opportunity. And honestly, that tells you how dangerous he still is. If your off day is second place while praising the guy who beat you, you are still a terrifying threat to the rest of the field. So I don't think this hurts SVG's reputation. I think it changes the rivalry. Now Reddick has proof. He knows he can stare him down and survive. And once a driver proves that to himself, the next duel gets even more dangerous. Now this is where it all circles back to NASCAR as a whole. Because this race had everything the sport should want. History, star power, team stakes, strategy, restarts, pressure, rivalry. A Hall of Fame-level sports icon in Michael Jordan celebrating on pit road. A road course king getting challenged by a driver who refused to fold. Even the supporting cast added depth. Christopher Bell salvaged third. Ty Gibbs played the strategy game into a stage win and a 4th-place finish. McDowell quietly came home 5th. A.J. Allmendinger battled brutal heat after his cool shirt failed. Alex Bowman had to step out sick. Connor Zilisch had a chaotic race that could have been much bigger without the spins. It was a rich, messy, dramatic NASCAR event. But because the modern fan conversation moves at warp speed, all of that can get swallowed by one accusation, one thumbnail, one headline, one viral post screaming that something shady happened. NASCAR has to understand that if fans do not trust the sport, even its best races can become credibility fights by sundown. And that's why I keep coming back to the same point. This wasn't a scandal because Shane Van Gisbergen exposed Tyler Reddick. It was a scandal in the eyes of some fans because Tyler Reddick was so good that people didn't know how to process it. There's a difference. A huge difference. SVG said Reddick's driving was immaculate. He said the car was very good. He said they just didn't have enough. Post-race inspection found no issues. So the factual story is that Reddick flat out earned it. But the emotional story, and the reason this thing caught fire, is that a lot of fans saw the road course king get beaten and immediately treated it like an impossible result. That tells you how high SVG's standard is, but it also tells you how explosive NASCAR discourse has become in 2026. So now I want to throw this to you, because this is the debate that really matters after COTA. Did Tyler Reddick prove he is now the most complete driver in NASCAR, Or did this race tell you Shane Van Gisbergen is still the road course king and just came up a little short on one day? And one more layer to it, do you think the biggest problem here is not cheating at all, but the fact that NASCAR fans trust almost nothing anymore when a shocking finish happens? Let me know in the comments because I genuinely want this one argued out. If you're passionate about this sport, if you felt the tension in those last laps, and if you want a channel that reacts like a real fan while still breaking down what actually happened, hit like, drop your take, and subscribe right now. We're building a real NASCAR community here, and after a race like this, the conversation is only getting louder.